My parents forced me to give up my dream college to babysit for my brother's family, saying it's only for a year until his wife gets better. But when I found their secret group chat, I found out what they were planning, and now they are begging for forgiveness after I walked away with everything. I never thought I'd be writing this post, but I need to get this off my chest. Last year, I, 21F, was so excited when I got accepted into my dream college with a partial scholarship. It wasn't a full ride, but combined with my savings from working part-time throughout high school, I could finally pursue my degree in architectural design at one of the best programs in the country. I'd worked so hard for this, staying up late studying, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, and participating in every relevant extracurricular activity I could find. My parents always told me how proud they were of my dedication. That all changed when my older brother Mark, 31M, and his wife Elise, 29F, faced a crisis. Elise was diagnosed with a serious illness that required intensive treatment over the course of a year. They have twin 4-year-olds, and suddenly they needed help. I remember the family dinner clearly. My parents invited me over, and Mark and Elise were there too. They waited until after dessert to bring up the subject. My mom started by saying how hard things were for Mark and Elise, and how family needs to stick together during difficult times. "We need to talk about your college plans," my dad said finally. "Mark and Elise need someone to watch the twins while she's receiving treatment, and Mark needs to work to cover the medical bills." I felt a pit form in my stomach as I realized where this was going. "What are you saying?" "We think you should defer your acceptance for a year," my mom said. "Just 1 year to help your brother. Family comes first, and the college will still be there next year." I was shocked. "But I've been working toward this for years. I can't just give it up." "It's not giving up," Mark chimed in. "It's just postponing. The kids love you, and we really need the help." Elise looked at me with tired eyes. "We can't afford a full-time nanny with all the medical bills, and we don't trust strangers with our children." My parents nodded in agreement. "This is what family does," my dad said firmly. "We sacrifice for each other." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dream was being pushed aside like it was nothing. I tried to suggest alternatives. Maybe I could attend a local community college and help part-time, or perhaps our extended family could create a rotation system for childcare. But they shot down every suggestion. They had clearly already made up their minds. The conversation wasn't a discussion, it was an announcement of what they expected me to do. "It's just for a year," my mom said, patting my hand. "Your education can wait." The implication was clear: if I refused, I was selfish. If I chose my education over my family's needs, I was the bad person in this scenario. Under intense pressure and with tears in my eyes, I reluctantly agreed. My parents said they were proud of me, and Mark promised he'd make it up to me somehow. The next day, I deferred my acceptance and scholarship, hoping they'd hold my spot. At first, I tried to make the best of the situation. I moved into Mark and Elise's spare bedroom and took over caring for the twins while Elise went to treatments and Mark worked overtime. The kids were sweet, but taking care of 2 energetic 4-year-olds was exhausting. I was essentially working 12+ hours a day, with no weekends off and very little compensation besides room and board. I kept telling myself it was temporary. Just 1 year became my mantra on tough days. 6 months in, I started asking about my plans for the following year. I wanted to confirm that I'd be able to go to college as promised, and I needed to contact the admissions office to ensure my spot was still secure. But whenever I brought it up, my family would change the subject or tell me to focus on the present. "Elise still has treatments," they'd say. "Let's talk about this later." As the 1-year mark approached, I became more insistent. Finally, I cornered my brother one evening after the kids went to bed. "Mark, I need to talk about college. The deadline to confirm my deferred enrollment is coming up, and I need to make plans." He looked uncomfortable. "About that? Elise's recovery is taking longer than expected. We were hoping you could stay another year." I was stunned. "Another year? But you promised it would just be 1 year." "I know, but things changed. Elise still needs a lot of help, and the kids adore you. Plus, you're so good with them." "But what about my life? My education? My future?" I was trying to stay calm, but I could feel tears forming. Mark sighed. "Look, college will always be there. But Elise needs help now. Don't you care about your niece and nephew? About your family?" There it was again, the guilt trip, the implication that my dreams weren't as important as their needs. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I felt trapped and used. While pacing around my room, I realized I'd left my phone charger in the kitchen. When I went downstairs, I spotted Mark's tablet on the counter. He must have left it there after using it earlier. As I walked past, I noticed a notification pop up for a group chat called Family Support. Curious, I tapped on it, thinking maybe it was a support group for families dealing with illness. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a group chat with my parents, Mark, and even Elise. And they were talking about me. "Mom, Has she mentioned college again? Mark, yes, I shut it down. Told her Elise needs more time. Dad, good. Remind her about family duty if she pushes back. Elise, I feel a little bad about this. She's giving up so much. Mark, we need her. Childcare would cost us a fortune, and she's basically free. Mom, it's not like she was going to do anything spectacular with that architecture degree anyway. This way she's actually being useful. Dad, exactly. And by the time we're done, her scholarship will have expired, and she'll have to start over. She'll probably just give up on the whole idea. I couldn't believe what I was reading. They were deliberately keeping me from my education. They never intended for this to be temporary. They were planning to use me as free childcare indefinitely, all while pretending it was just a temporary sacrifice. What hurt the most was seeing my mother's comment about my dreams not being spectacular anyway. All those years of encouragement were apparently just lip service. They didn't believe in me at all. I scrolled up through months of messages, and their manipulation became even clearer. They had been coordinating their responses to me, making sure to use the same talking points about family duty and making me feel guilty for wanting my own life. I took photos of the conversations as evidence, then put the tablet back exactly where I found it. I went back to my room and cried silently into my pillow, feeling betrayed by the people I trusted most. The next morning, I called the college to inquire about my deferred enrollment. As I feared, my scholarship was no longer valid since I'd deferred beyond the allowed time. I would need to reapply and hope for new financial aid. I spent the next few days quietly making plans. I contacted some friends from high school who were attending colleges in different cities. One of them, Jess, said her roommate had just dropped out, and she was looking for someone to take over the lease. The college nearby wasn't my dream school, but they had a decent architecture program, and I could apply for the spring semester. I waited until the weekend when my parents came to visit. Everyone was gathered in the living room after dinner, my parents, Mark, and a recovering Elise. The twins were in bed. I have something to say, I announced, my voice surprisingly steady despite my racing heart. They all looked at me expectantly. I know about the group chat, I said. I saw your messages about keeping me here, about making sure I never go back to college. Their faces drained of color. Mark started to speak, but I held up my hand. Don't bother denying it. I saw everything. You never intended for this to be temporary. You've been manipulating me, using my love for this family against me. Honey, you don't understand, my mother began. I understand perfectly, I cut her off. You don't respect me or my dreams. You see me as free labor, nothing more. That's not true, my father protested weakly. Really? Because Mom literally said my architecture degree wouldn't be spectacular anyway. That I'm more useful as a babysitter than pursuing my own life. Elise at least had the decency to look ashamed. We shouldn't have done this, she said quietly. No, you shouldn't have, I agreed. And I'm done. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I found a place to stay and I'm going to apply to college for the spring semester. You can't just abandon the kids, Mark protested. They need you. No, they need parents who don't exploit family members. You'll figure it out, just like you would have had to if I'd gone to college as planned. Where will you go? How will you pay for school? My mother asked, suddenly concerned now that her free childcare plan was falling apart. I have some savings left, and I'll get a job. I'll take out loans if I have to. But I'm not spending another minute being lied to and manipulated by the people who are supposed to love me most. The room erupted in protests and excuses. My father said I was overreacting. Mark insisted they had always intended to let me go back to school. Eventually, my mother cried about family loyalty. But I stood firm. The next morning, I packed my belongings and called an Uber. Jess was expecting me, and I had already arranged to crash on her couch until I could be added to the lease. As I was loading my bags into the car, my entire family came out to the driveway, making one last attempt to get me to stay. Mark had the twins with him, who looked confused about what was happening. Please don't do this, my mother begged. We can work something out. We're sorry, Mark added. We should have been honest. I looked at them all standing there and felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Yes, you should have been. But you weren't. You were willing to sacrifice my future for your convenience. I'll never forget that. And with that, I got in the car and didn't look back. The first few months were hard. I got a job waiting tables and applied to the local university. My application was accepted for the spring semester, but with minimal financial aid. I would have to work nearly full-time while attending classes to make ends meet. My family called and texted constantly at first. My parents offered financial help, but I refused to accept anything that would give them leverage over me again. Eventually, their messages became less frequent, though my mom still sends the occasional guilt trip text about how the twins miss me. It's been a year since I walked away. I'm now enrolled in architecture classes, working evenings at a restaurant, and slowly rebuilding my life. It's not the dream school I originally planned to attend, but I'm still pursuing my passion, and that means everything to me. Last week, my brother showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked terrible, tired and stressed. "We hired a nanny," he admitted. "It costs a fortune, and she's not nearly as good with the kids as you were." I waited, sensing there was more. "I came to apologize," he said finally. "What we did was wrong. We took advantage of you because it was convenient for us. I didn't think about what it meant for your future." His apology seemed genuine, but it was too little, too late. The trust was broken, and no amount of remorse could erase the fact that my own family had conspired to derail my life. "I appreciate you saying that," I told him. "But I need to focus on my own path now." He nodded, looking around my small apartment with its second-hand furniture and the architecture models I was building for class. "You're really doing it, aren't you? Following your dream despite everything." "Yes, I am." After he left, I sat down with my textbooks, feeling a new sense of pride. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't the path I'd imagined, but it was mine. I had stood up for myself when no one else would, and that was perhaps the most important lesson of all. My family still reaches out occasionally, asking to reconnect. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have them in my life again, but it will be on my terms, with clear boundaries. For now, I'm focused on building the future they try to take away from me, brick by brick, just like the buildings I hope to design someday. Update: it's been 3 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. First of all, thank you to everyone who offered support and advice in the comments. It really helped me stay strong during some tough moments. After my brother's visit, my parents started making more serious attempts to reconcile. They sent lengthy emails apologizing for their actions and recognizing how they had betrayed my trust. My dad even admitted that their behavior had been inexcusable and that they had let their concern for Mark's situation override the respect for me as an individual. While I appreciated the apologies, I wasn't ready to let them back into my life just yet. I told them I needed more time, and surprisingly, they respected that boundary. During this time, I continued working and studying at the local university, focusing on building my portfolio and maintaining good grades despite my heavy work schedule. Then 2 weeks ago, I received a letter from my dream university, the one I had originally been accepted to. Apparently, Mark had reached out to them, explained the situation, taking full responsibility, and asked if there was any way they could reconsider my application and scholarship. The letter stated that while they couldn't offer the same scholarship package as before, they would be willing to consider me for a different scholarship program if I reapplied for the fall semester. They also mentioned that my original portfolio had been highly regarded by the admissions committee. I was conflicted about this. On one hand, it was my dream school, and this could be my second chance. On the other hand, it came through Mark's intervention, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I called the admissions office directly to verify the letter and get more information. The woman I spoke with confirmed that my brother had indeed contacted them, but emphasized that any decision about my admission would be based solely on my qualifications, not on my family's situation. After thinking it over, I decided to reapply. This was my dream, after all, and I wouldn't let my family's past actions prevent me from pursuing it. Yesterday, I met with my parents for coffee, the first time I've seen them in person since I left. It was awkward at first, but as we talked, I could see that they genuinely regretted what they had done. "We got caught up in helping Mark and completely disregarded your future," my mom said, her eyes filled with tears. "I especially regret what I said about your architecture dreams. The truth is, I've always been amazed by your talent and determination. I was just trying to justify our selfish decision to keep you from pursuing it." My dad reached across the table and placed a document in front of me. It was a check, enough to cover my tuition and expenses for the coming year, regardless of which school I attended. "This isn't a bribe or an attempt to control you," he said firmly. "This is money that should have gone to your education last year. You can take it with no strings attached, even if you never want to speak to us again. I still haven't decided if I'll accept the money. Part of me wants to continue doing this completely on my own, to prove to myself that I can. But another part recognizes that this could be their way of making genuine amends. As for Mark and Elise, they've found a permanent childcare solution and have promised never to ask me for that kind of help again without proper compensation and respect for my time. Elise is now in remission, which is the one truly good piece of news in all of this. The twins send me drawings sometimes, which Mark forwards to me. I miss them, but I know maintaining my boundaries is important. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with my family. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. But I'm proud of how I've stood my ground and refused to let their expectations determine my life's direction. For now, I'm focusing on my reapplication to my dream school and continuing my current studies. Whether or not I ever fully reconcile with my family, I know one thing for certain: I will never again allow anyone to convince me that my dreams are disposable or that my value lies only in what I can do for others. My architecture models are getting better every day. The professor in my design class recently told me I have a unique perspective that brings something special to my work. Maybe it's because I now understand how important it is to build your life on a foundation of self-respect and determination. Whatever happens next, I'm building my future on my terms, and that's a structure that won't easily collapse.